Welcome to the Julian Meetings. Waiting on God in the Silence is our introductory leaflet giving some key facts about the Julian Meetings. It is read by Sheena and Bob, both members of the Julian Meetings.
Waiting on God in the Silence. Julian Meetings are groups of people who meet regularly in order to grow in the practice of contemplative prayer in the Christian tradition. A Julian meeting is usually 6 to 15 people of various denominations, both lay people and clergy. They meet regularly in a house, church, or chapel. A brief reading or piece of music leads into about 30 minutes of silent contemplative prayer. This may be followed by time for tea or coffee and conversation. Julian meetings do vary. Our main guidelines are that each meeting is centered on contemplative prayer in the Christian tradition. It welcomes people of all denominations. It welcomes those seeking a place for silent prayer. We teach no specific method, but our Basics of Contemplative Prayer booklet gives some guidelines. We encourage people to seek what is right for them, to discover how they can integrate contemplation into their daily prayer life, and how personal and group contemplative prayer can enrich each other. Those who attend Julian meetings often take a full part in the life of their own church, but some have no formal church links. Local and regional quiet days or retreats and occasional national gatherings enable wider sharing between people from several meetings.
How the Julian Meetings began. Contemplative prayer has been part of Christianity from the beginning. Jesus spent whole nights alone in prayer. The Desert Fathers and our own Celtic hermits sought places to be alone with God. But for some centuries, the Christian churches neglected this most basic form of prayer. It became usual only in monastic communities. In the 1960s and 1970s, with the great interest in Eastern forms of mysticism and meditation, many people realized that the Church had not taught people about its own tradition of contemplative prayer. In 1973, a letter in English church papers of various denominations led to people in 11 areas setting up contemplative prayer groups. These grew into the network we have today.
Julian Meetings today. Julian meetings keep bureaucracy to a minimum, but some jobs must be done. Respond to inquiries. Produce and send out the Julian Meeting magazine and literature. Run the website and social media accounts. Keep in touch with meetings. Organize national events. Manage Julian Meetings finances. These jobs are done by the Julian Meeting Council members, volunteers working from home across the country. Julian Meetings has no offices nor paid staff. To cover costs, we invite those who support our work or join our magazine mailing list to make a donation.
Why Julian? The movement was named after Julian of Norwich, a 14th century mystic. Her inspired writings are at times used at meetings, but Julian Meetings is not here to promote Julian, nor are we associated with other organizations bearing her name. The purpose of Julian Meetings is defined as fostering the practice and teaching of contemplative prayer within the Christian tradition. And this accords with Julian's precept that the highest form of prayer consists in simply waiting on God.
What is contemplative prayer? Contemplative prayer has been described as listening for God, opening ourselves to God, waiting silently upon God. Other descriptions are meditation, contemplation, centering prayer, or the prayer of quiet. In contemplative prayer, we seek to be aware of the presence of God and to remain silently and attentively in that presence, completely open to God. It's not just that words are unnecessary, but that they may even get in the way. Prayer involves listening as well as speaking, but so often we do all the talking and God doesn't get a chance to talk with us. Simply being with God, like this, is a very natural way of praying. It may be the only way we can pray when we're tired or ill. Some children pray in this way quite instinctively. So did the old man who explained why he sat in church for hours. I look at him, he looks at me.
Why belong to a Julian meeting? If we feel we need to learn how to be still with God, we might start with ways that have helped other people. Belonging to a group of people who meet regularly to pray in silence can both help and encourage us. We do not feel isolated. Prayerful silence is helped when 2 or 3 are together, and this complements our daily personal prayer. If we are having problems with our praying, sharing them can help us to grow through them. A Julian meeting can provide these opportunities. Today there are online and distance Julian meetings, which could be an alternative to, or in addition to, a physical Julian meeting.
We hope you enjoyed this reading and found it useful. You can read, download, print and buy printed copies of the leaflet and many of our other publications from our website. Our website has a list of our meetings and many more resources and information about the Julian meetings and contemplative prayer. Join the mailing list for our magazine, which is published 3 times a year, has news of JM, items on prayer and related subjects, book reviews, poems and quotations. www.thejulianmeetings.net